Amy Wilson looked up at the strange metal ceiling of her cell. It had been 3 days since the aliens took her from Earth. She was 12 years old with bright red hair and green eyes. Too young, the aliens kept saying. Too small, too weak. They had not meant to take a child. Amy sat up on the hard sleeping platform and watched the blue-skinned aliens walk past her cell. They were called Vraxians. They stood over 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like metal. Their eyes were large and black with no white parts like human eyes. The ship hummed around her. Amy had been playing in the woods near her house when a strange light appeared. Before she could run, she felt herself being pulled upward. When she could see again, she was in a large room with about 30 other humans, all adults, all scared. "How did a child get here?" one of the aliens had asked in perfect English. They had learned Earth languages from our radio and TV signals. "Error in collection protocol," another replied. "The specimen is too young for the arena." Amy remembered how her parents taught her to stay calm when scared. Her mom was an engineer who built robots. Her dad was a computer expert who solved hard problems. "When you're scared," her mom always said, "focus on what you can learn." So Amy watched. She listened. She learned. The humans were kept in separate cells, but Amy could see some of them in nearby rooms. A tall man with gray hair named Sam Gardner talked to her through the clear wall between their cells. "Don't worry, kid," he said. "I was a soldier for 20 years. I'll find a way to get us out of here." Sam told Amy what he had learned. The Vraxians traveled across space collecting beings from different worlds. They took these captives to fight in giant arenas for entertainment. Billions of aliens watched these fights across their empire. "They're taking us to a place called Vraxis Prime," Sam explained. "It's their main arena world. No human has survived more than 3 challenges there." Amy nodded but kept thinking. She noticed things the adults didn't seem to see. Like how the door controls used patterns based on numbers. Like how the food delivery system could be reached if someone was small enough. Like how the aliens never expected anyone to smile at them. Captain Drell was the ship commander. He was taller than the others with darker blue skin and a scar across his face. He came to look at Amy every day, always shaking his head. "The small, human will not survive," he told his crew. "It is a waste of resources." But rules were rules. All captured beings had to compete, even ones taken by mistake. On the 5th day, Amy was eating her food when alarms sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the halls. The aliens ran past shouting orders. "What's happening?" Amy called to Sam. "I think we're under attack," he answered, pressing against the clear wall. "Maybe Earth sent ships after us." But it wasn't Earth ships. Through her small window, Amy saw strange vessels with glowing green engines. Their weapons hit the Vraxian ship, making it shake. "Pirates," an alien guard said as he ran past. "Zebian pirates." The ship shook again. Harder this time. Amy fell to the floor as the lights went out. In the darkness, she heard a click. Her cell door had unlocked. All around, cell doors were opening. The backup systems had failed. The emergency protocol had released all locks. "Run!" Sam shouted from his cell. "Everyone out!" Humans poured into the hallway. Some tried to fight the few guards left. Others searched for escape pods. Chaos was everywhere. Amy stayed close to the wall, moving carefully through the darkness. She remembered the ship layout from watching the guards. She knew where the smaller ships were kept. As she turned a corner, she ran into Captain Drell. He grabbed her with his lower arms. "You will not escape, small human," he said. But Amy did something unexpected. She smiled at him. The captain paused, confused by this reaction. In that moment of surprise, Amy slipped from his grasp and darted between his legs. She ran down the hall toward the shuttle bay. Behind her, she heard Captain Drell shouting orders. The emergency lights came on, casting an orange glow through the corridors. When Amy reached the shuttle bay, she found several humans trying to open the doors to the small ships. Sam was there working on a control panel. "Amy, stay back. It's dangerous here," he called when he saw her. The ship shook again as another blast hit it. The pirates were still attacking. "I can help," Amy said, moving to Sam's side. "I watched how they used the controls." Sam looked doubtful, but stepped aside. Amy studied the panel. It used the same number patterns she had seen on the cell doors. Her fingers moved quickly, pressing symbols in a specific order. The shuttle bay doors began to open. "How did you do that?" Sam asked, amazed. "They think in patterns," Amy explained. "Once you see the pattern, it's easy." More humans arrived, 26 in all. They rushed toward the shuttles, but before they could board, a security door slammed down, blocking their path. Captain Drell's voice came through the speakers. "Humans, your escape attempt has failed. Return to the holding area immediately." The humans looked defeated. Some sat down, heads in hands, others shouted in anger. Only Amy kept moving. She went to another panel near the floor. This one controlled the secondary systems. Again, her small fingers worked the patterns. "What are you doing now?" Sam asked, kneeling beside her. "The captain thinks like an adult," Amy said simply. "They all do. They miss things." The panel beeped, and a small maintenance hatch opened in the wall, just large enough for a person to crawl through. "We can reach the shuttles through the service tunnels," Amy said. "But we need to hurry." Sam looked at the small opening, then at Amy. "Lead the way." One by one, the humans followed Amy through the maintenance tunnel. It was tight for the adults, but perfect for Amy's size. She moved confidently through the dark spaces, following the mental map she had created. They emerged on the other side of the security door, right next to the shuttles. "Everyone in," Sam ordered. "Quick!" The humans piled into 2 shuttles. Sam helped Amy into the first one, where he took the pilot's seat. "Do you know how to fly this thing?" someone asked. Sam shook his head. "Not exactly, but I can help," Amy interrupted. She pointed to symbols on the control panel. "It's the same pattern system. Look." As the main ship continued to battle the pirates, the 2 human-filled shuttles slipped away unnoticed. But they weren't heading to Earth. The shuttles were programmed, with only one destination, Vraxis Prime, the arena world. As the shuttle entered hyperspace, Sam looked at Amy with new respect. "How did you figure all this out in just 5 days?" Amy shrugged. "I watched. I listened." Then she smiled, the same smile that had confused Captain Drell. "And I remembered what my dad always says. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to look at it like a child would." Sam laughed for the first time since his capture. "Well, I'm glad we have a child on our side." As the shuttle raced toward Vraxis Prime, Amy knew their troubles weren't over. The arena world waited for them. No human had survived more than 3 challenges there, and no child of any species had ever been sent to compete. But Amy Wilson wasn't worried. She was already watching, listening, and learning. And most importantly, she was thinking in ways the Vraxians could never understand. The shuttle shook as it entered the atmosphere of Vraxis Prime. Through the small window, Amy could see a planet-sized arena. Huge buildings covered the surface. Lights flashed everywhere. Millions of alien ships hovered around the planet. "We're coming in too fast," Sam said from the pilot seat. His hands moved quickly over the controls, but the shuttle kept dropping. Amy moved beside him. "Let me help," she said. She pointed to a sequence of symbols on the panel. "Press these in order." Sam followed her instructions. The shuttle stopped shaking and began to slow down. "How did you know that?" asked Judy Baker, a science teacher who sat behind them. Amy shrugged. "I watched the guards use the controls on the big ship. The Vraxians use the same patterns for everything." The shuttle landed with a bump on a large platform. Outside, hundreds of aliens moved around. Some had blue skin like the Vraxians. Others were green, red, or colors Amy had never seen before. Some had many arms. Some had no arms at all. Some floated above the ground. "What happens now?" someone asked. "They'll process us," Sam said grimly. "That's what I heard the guards talking about. All new captures get processed and sorted into different arena groups." The shuttle door opened. Armed guards entered, tall Vraxians with weapons pointed at the humans. "Exit in single file," one ordered. "Any resistance will result in immediate elimination." The humans filed out onto the landing platform. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet. The gravity felt lighter than Earth, making Amy feel like she could jump very high. Guards surrounded them and marched them toward a massive building. The walls were made of a dark material that seemed to shift and move. Signs in many languages hung above different doors. One in English read, "New specimens, processing." Inside, the humans were lined up in front of scanning machines. Alien workers in white uniforms moved efficiently, checking each human and entering data into floating screens. When Amy's turn came, the scanner hummed as it passed over her. The alien worker looked at the screen and made a strange clicking sound. Error. Juvenile specimen detected. Age incompatible with arena parameters. A supervisor came over. This Vraxian was taller than the others with elaborate markings on his blue skin. His name tag read Thrix. "What is this?" Thrix asked, looking down at Amy. "A juvenile human?" "Unacceptable. The collection was made," another Vraxian said. "The laws are absolute. All collected specimens must compete." Thrix made an angry sound. "Fine. Mark it for the crusher with the other defectives." Amy was separated from Sam and the other humans. Guards led her down a different hallway to a small room with clear walls. Inside were 3 other beings, none human. One was tall and thin with 3 arms and grayish skin. Another looked like a small dinosaur with bright green scales. The third was round and covered in soft purple fur. "Hello," Amy said, sitting on a bench along the wall. The 3-armed alien looked surprised. "You speak. What species are you? I have not seen your kind before." "I'm human," Amy said. "My name is Amy. What's yours?" "I am Grawl," the 3-armed alien said. "A Palaxian mathematician. I was captured by mistake during a research expedition." The dinosaur-like creature moved closer. "I am Zin," it said in a high voice. "From the Scar system. Too small for proper arena combat, they say." The furry purple being made soft noises but didn't speak in a way Amy could understand. "That is Moof," Grawl explained. "Its species communicates through color changes and vibrations. It says it is pleased to meet you, but sad about our shared fate." "What fate is that?" Amy asked. Grawl's face grew serious. "We are defectives, beings who cannot provide proper entertainment in the regular arenas. Tomorrow they will send us to the Crusher." "What's the Crusher?" Amy asked. "A disposal arena," Zin said. "The walls close in until everything inside is crushed. Audiences bet on which specimens will survive longest, though none are expected to escape." Amy looked around the room carefully. She noticed the control panel by the door used the same number patterns she had seen on the ship. She saw small vents near the ceiling that might be big enough for someone her size to fit through. "Maybe we can escape," she whispered. Grawl shook his head. "Impossible. The arena is surrounded by security systems designed by the greatest minds in the Empire." "But they're all adult minds," Amy said. "They think like adults. Sometimes kids see things differently." That night, while the others slept, Amy studied everything about their cell. She noticed how the guards entered codes, how the ventilation system worked, how the feeding system operated. She found a loose piece of metal on her bench and carefully worked it free. It would make a useful tool. When Grawl woke, Amy showed him what she had learned. "The door control panel uses a mathematical sequence, doesn't it?" Grawl looked surprised. "Yes, based on Vraxian prime numbers. How did you know?" "I watched how they input the codes," Amy said. "I think I understand the pattern." Grawl studied her with his large eyes. "You are an unusual juvenile. On my world, the young are not so observant." "On my world, kids solve puzzles all the time," Amy said, "and this is just a really big puzzle." The next morning, guards came for them. "Defectives to the Crusher," one announced. As they were led through the corridors, Amy memorized the route. She counted the steps between security doors. She noted where the guard stations were located. They entered a massive round room with high walls. Thousands of aliens sat in seats surrounding the arena floor. Screens floated in the air, showing close-ups of the defectives being led in. A voice boomed overhead in many languages. Today's Crusher event features 14 defective specimens, including the first human juvenile ever captured. Place your bets on survival time now. Amy and the others were pushed onto the arena floor along with 10 more beings of different species. A force field shimmered behind them as the guards exited. They were trapped. The massive walls of the Crusher began to move inward with a low, grinding sound. Some of the trapped beings panicked, pushing against the walls or attacking each other in fear. The purple moof curled into a ball vibrating with terror. "Grawl," Amy said calmly, "can you lift me up to that vent?" She pointed to a small grate near the ceiling. "It's too small for most of us," Grawl said. "But not for me," Amy replied. "And not for Zin. Once we're through, we can find the control room and stop the walls." Grawl looked doubtful but knelt down. Amy climbed onto his shoulders. As he stood, she reached the vent and used her metal tool to loosen the grate. The walls continued to move inward, now just 15 feet apart. Amy pulled herself into the vent, then reached down. "Zin, jump!" The small reptilian creature leaped up, and Amy caught its clawed hand. She pulled Zin into the vent beside her. "We'll find help," Amy promised Grawl. Then she began crawling through the dark ventilation shaft, Zin close behind. The audience watched in shock as 2 dots on the arena tracking system moved outside the Crusher walls. What was supposed to be a simple disposal had turned into something unexpected. Amy smiled as she crawled through the darkness. The Vraxians had made their first mistake. They had underestimated what a human child could do. The air in the ventilation shaft was warm and smelled like oil. Amy crawled forward with Zin close behind her. They could hear the grinding of the Crusher walls through the metal around them. "We need to find the control room," Amy whispered. "Can you smell which way to go?" Zin's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "Many Vraxians that way," the little reptile said, pointing down a side passage. "Where there are many, there must be important things." They crawled in that direction. The shaft got tighter, then opened into a junction with 4 different paths. Amy paused, thinking. "Look," she said, pointing to small symbols on the walls. "These are direction markers." "You can read Vraxian script?" Zin asked, surprised. "Not exactly," Amy said. "But I noticed on the ship that they mark important places with special symbols. This one looks like the one near the bridge." They followed the path with the control symbol. Soon they heard voices below them. Amy carefully moved toward a vent opening and peered through the slats. Below was a large room filled with screens and control panels. About 20 Vraxians worked at different stations. On the biggest screen was the Crusher arena. The walls were now only 10 feet apart. The trapped aliens were pressed together in the center. 12 minutes until complete compression, a Vraxian announced. All specimens still showing life signs. Amy studied the room. She spotted what looked like the main control panel. A Vraxian, with elaborate armbands, stood before it watching the screens. "That must be the controller," she whispered to Zin. "If we can distract them, I might be able to stop the Crusher." "How?" Zin asked. "We are small. They are many." Amy looked around the shaft, noticing that bundles of wires ran alongside them. She remembered something her mother taught her about electrical systems. "These wires probably connect to the lights and air systems," she said. "If we damage them in the right way, it might cause a problem they need to fix." Using her metal tool, Amy carefully scraped away the covering on several wires. Then she crossed them, creating sparks. Immediately, alarms sounded in the control room. Some of the screens went dark and the lights flickered. "System failure in Section 8, a Vraxian shouted. "Power fluctuations detected." Several Vraxians ran from the room. The one with the armbands remained at the main control panel, but he looked worried. "Now," Amy said. She pushed open the vent cover and dropped silently to the floor behind a large piece of equipment. Zin followed, blending perfectly with the shadows. The remaining Vraxians were focused on the failing systems. Amy slipped from shadow to shadow, moving closer to the main control panel. Zin went the opposite direction, knocking over a small container with a clatter. When the Vraxians turned toward the noise, Amy darted forward to the main panel. She recognized the shutdown sequence from watching the guards on the ship. Her fingers moved quickly over the symbols. The main controller turned just as Amy pressed the final symbol. "Intruder!" he shouted, reaching for her. But it was too late. On the big screen, the crusher walls stopped moving. Then slowly they began to retreat. The controller grabbed Amy with one of his forearms. "How did you escape? What have you done?" he demanded. Amy didn't struggle. Instead, she smiled at him, the same calm, confident smile that had confused Captain Drell. The Vraxian paused, puzzled by her reaction. In that moment of confusion, Zin leaped onto his back, scratching and biting. The Vraxian released Amy to deal with this new threat. Amy ran to another panel and pressed more symbols. The doors to the crusher opened. On the screen, she could see Grawl and the others rushing out to freedom. Alarms blared throughout the facility. A voice announced, "Security breach in Arena Complex C. All guards report. Escaped specimens detected." Amy and Zin fled the control room as more Vraxians rushed in. They ducked into a small maintenance closet as guards ran past. "What now?" Zin asked, breathing hard. "They will catch us soon." "We need to find Sam and the other humans," Amy said, "and we need to find a way off this planet." They left the closet and moved carefully through the corridors. Twice they had to hide from guards. Amy noticed that many doors were locked with the same pattern system she had learned. She was able to open them by pressing the right symbols. Finally, they reached a section with signs in many languages. One in English read, "Human Combat Preparation." Amy opened the door using the pattern code. Inside was a large room where about 30 humans sat or stood in small groups. Some wore strange armor. Others were practicing fighting moves. "Amy," Sam Gardner rushed forward when he saw her. "We thought you were dead. They told us you were sent to the crusher." "I was," Amy said, "but I escaped with Zin's help." She introduced the small reptile creature. "How did you get out of the crusher?" asked Judy Baker. "No one has ever survived it before." Before Amy could answer, the door burst open. Guards rushed in, weapons ready. Behind them was a tall Vraxian with gold skin instead of blue. He wore elaborate robes covered in glowing symbols. "Where is the human child?" he demanded. The humans moved protectively in front of Amy, but she stepped forward. The gold Vraxian studied her with 6 eyes that shimmered with different colors. "I am Arena Master Kroll," he said. "Supreme authority over all competitions on Vraxis Prime. You have created quite a problem, small human." "I'm sorry about your crusher," Amy said politely. "I just didn't want my friends to die." Kroll made a strange sound that might have been a laugh. "The crusher can be repaired, but my reputation? The betting markets? Those are not so easily fixed. For the first time in the history of the arenas, a defective specimen has not only survived but helped others escape." He leaned down closer to Amy. "Billions watched what you did today. The gambling systems nearly collapsed as bets on your survival flooded in, and now everyone is asking, what will the human child do next?" Amy wasn't sure what to say, so she just looked at him. "I should have you executed," Kroll continued, "but that would disappoint too many important viewers. Instead, I have a proposition. You will compete in the real arenas, not disposal events, but true competitions. If you survive, your status will be reconsidered." "And if I refuse?" Amy asked. "Then all these humans will be sent to the most dangerous arenas we have," Kroll said simply. "Few would survive the first day." Amy looked at Sam and the other humans, then at Zin, then back at Kroll. "I'll do it," she said, "but I have 2 conditions. First, my friend Zin stays with me. Second, the other beings from the crusher aren't punished for escaping." Kroll's eyes shimmered with surprise. "You bargain with me? Interesting." He thought for a moment. "Very well. Your terms are accepted. You will begin tomorrow in the labyrinth." After Kroll left, Sam knelt beside Amy. "What's the labyrinth?" he asked worriedly. "I don't know," Amy admitted. "But whatever it is, I'll figure it out." That night, Amy couldn't sleep. She sat on her new bed in a small private room they had given her. Zin curled up nearby, making soft snoring sounds. Amy thought about Earth, about her parents who must be worried sick. She thought about the strange world she was on, full of dangers she didn't understand. But mostly she thought about puzzles and games and all the times her parents had encouraged her to think differently than other kids. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem, her dad always said, is to look at it from a new angle, see what others miss. Tomorrow she would face the labyrinth. No one would tell her what it was, but she had overheard guards talking about traps and monsters. She should be terrified. Instead, Amy Wilson smiled in the darkness. After all, what was a labyrinth but a very big puzzle? And solving puzzles was what she did best. Morning came too soon. Amy woke to the sound of a buzzer. Her room lit up with a soft blue glow. On a small table, she found a new set of clothes. A gray jumpsuit with her name written in both English and Vraxian symbols. Zin stretched and yawned, showing rows of tiny, sharp teeth. "Today we face the labyrinth," the little reptile said. "I heard guards talking. No one has completed it in less than 2 days." Amy put on the jumpsuit. It fit perfectly. 2 days to solve a maze? How big is it? "Very big," Zin said, "and filled with traps and creatures. We get some supplies, but not many." The door opened and 2 guards entered. "Time to prepare," one said. "Follow." They led Amy and Zin to a large room where other contestants waited. Amy counted 15 beings from different species. Some were huge with muscles and weapons. Others were smaller but looked quick and clever. All were adults. A Vraxian in a white uniform approached Amy with a small device. "Tracking implant," he explained, reaching for her arm. "Required for all contestants." Amy didn't resist as he pressed the device against her skin. It stung for a second, then stopped. "This lets them watch you in the arena," he said. "It also monitors your life signs." Nearby, Zin received a similar implant. Another Vraxian handed out supply packs. "Basic survival gear," he explained. "Water purifier, light source, 1 meal. Basic medical kit." Amy looked around the room. No other humans were competing. She noticed some of the aliens watching her with curiosity or amusement. One large purple being with 4 arms laughed openly. "They sent a human child?" it said in broken English. "This will be short entertainment." Sam Gardner and Judy Baker were allowed to visit before the competition began. They looked worried. I asked about the labyrinth. Sam said quietly. "It's a massive maze that changes its layout every few hours. It has dangerous creatures and traps. Contestants need to reach the center within 3 days or be eliminated." "Eliminated means killed?" Amy asked. Sam nodded grimly. "I tried to volunteer in your place, but they refused. They want you specifically because of what happened at the Crusher." Judy knelt beside Amy. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." "No," Amy said. "Arena Master Kroll was clear. If I don't compete, you all suffer. I'll be okay. I'm good at puzzles, remember?" A loud horn sounded. "Contestants to the transport," a voice announced. Amy hugged Sam and Judy goodbye. "Take care of each other," she said. Then she and Zin followed the other contestants to a large transport vehicle. The vehicle moved quickly through the huge arena complex. Through the windows, Amy saw thousands of aliens in seats watching various competitions on massive screens. Some arenas had creatures fighting each other. Others had obstacle courses or strange games Amy didn't understand. The transport stopped at a massive wall that stretched up so high Amy couldn't see the top. A large door opened, revealing darkness inside. "The labyrinth awaits," announced a Vraxian official. "You have 3 days to reach the center. Tracking will show your progress to our viewers. Good luck. You will need it." One by one, the contestants entered the dark opening. When it was Amy's turn, she took a deep breath and stepped forward. Zin stayed close beside her. Inside, the door closed behind them with a heavy sound. Small lights along the floor illuminated a wide corridor that split into 3 paths ahead. "Which way?" Zin asked. Amy thought for a moment. In most mazes, people tend to turn right when uncertain, so most contestants will go right. Let's go straight. They moved forward into the labyrinth. The walls were made of a strange material that seemed to absorb sound. Their footsteps made no noise. The air smelled damp and earthy. After walking for about 10 minutes, they reached another split, this time with 5 possible paths. Amy looked carefully at each one. "Look at the dust on the floor," she said. "More footprints go toward those 2 paths. Let's take this one with fewer tracks." As they walked, Amy started noticing patterns. Small marks on the walls, subtle differences in the lighting. She began to make a mental map. "I think the labyrinth has a system," she told Zin. "The turns aren't random. There's a pattern." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The walls seemed to shift and move. "The maze is changing," Zin hissed. When the movement stopped, the path behind them had disappeared. The way ahead looked completely different. They changed the layout every few hours. Amy remembered. We need to understand the pattern of changes, too. They continued forward more carefully now. Twice they had to hide from strange creatures that prowled the corridors, large shadow-like beings with glowing eyes. In one room they found their first trap, floor tiles that sank when stepped on, releasing darts from the walls. Amy noticed small discolorations on the dangerous tiles and guided them safely across. By the end of the first day they had made good progress, but the center still seemed far away. They found a small alcove to rest in and shared some of their supplies. "You are very smart for a small human," Zin said. "On my world, the young are kept in safe places until fully grown." "On Earth, kids solve problems all the time," Amy replied. "We do puzzles and play games and learn how things work. My parents always let me try to figure things out myself." They rested. Amy heard movement nearby. She peeked out of their hiding spot and saw another contestant, a tall being with 6 legs and blue fur. It looked injured, limping and holding one of its limbs. "Should we hide?" Zin whispered. Amy shook her head. "I think they need help." Despite Zin's protests, Amy approached the injured alien. "Hello," she said. "Are you hurt? I have a medical kit." The alien flinched in surprise. "A human child? Why would you help me? We are competitors." "We don't have to be," Amy said. "Maybe we can work together." The alien hesitated, then nodded. "I am Creel of the Faroon. A trap caught my leg. I cannot continue alone." Amy used her medical kit to bandage Creel's injured limb. As she worked, she explained her theory about the labyrinth's patterns. "Yes," Creel said. "I noticed similar patterns but was too focused on speed. The Faroon value swiftness above all. Sometimes going slow lets you see more," Amy said. By morning, they had formed a small team, Amy, Zin, and Creel. As they continued through the labyrinth, they met 2 more contestants willing to cooperate, rather than compete. Drav, a floating orb-like being with exceptional vision, and Newell, a plant-based life form that could sense water and safe paths. Working together, they began to make rapid progress. Amy coordinated their efforts using each being's unique abilities. When the maze shifted, they quickly adapted by sharing observations. Arena Master Kroll watched from his control room. Billions of viewers across the Empire were glued to their screens. The betting systems were overwhelmed with wagers on the human child. "What is she doing?" Kroll demanded. "Contestants are supposed to compete, not cooperate." His assistant looked nervous. "There is no rule against cooperation, Master. It has simply never happened before." Kroll's eyes shimmered with mixed emotions. "Increase difficulty, add more predators, make the maze shift more frequently." But even as the labyrinth grew more dangerous, Amy's team adapted. By the end of the second day, they had mapped enough patterns to predict the maze changes. They could sense traps before triggering them. They avoided predators by working together. And always, Amy led with a calm smile, solving each new problem with the fresh perspective that only a child could bring. Dawn of the third day broke with a strange purple light filtering through cracks in the labyrinth ceiling. Amy and her team had rested in shifts through the night. Now they gathered around a small map Amy had drawn on the floor using colored dust from the walls. "We're close to the center," Amy said, pointing to a spot on her map. Maybe 2 hours of walking if the maze doesn't change again. It will change, Creel said, his 6 legs shifting nervously. The patterns suggest a major shift is due soon. Drav, the floating orb-like being, pulsed with a soft light. I can rise high enough to see over some walls. Perhaps I can spot the center before the next shift. Amy nodded. Good idea. Newell, can you sense which direction has more water? The center might have water for contestants who make it. The plant-like Newell extended thin green tendrils into the air. Yes, moisture is more plentiful to the north. Zin flicked a forked tongue, and I smell many other contestants gathered that way. Working together, they plotted a new course. Just as they were ready to move, the ground trembled. Walls began to shift around them. Major change coming, Creel warned. Amy noticed something she hadn't seen before. Near the floor, small symbols appeared briefly as the walls moved. Look, she called out. Directional markers. The team pressed close to the walls, each watching the symbols. When the rumbling stopped and the maze settled into its new pattern, they compared what they had seen. The symbols are a code, Amy realized. They show the new correct path after each change. The Vraxians don't expect anyone to notice them because they appear for just a second. Using this new knowledge, they moved quickly through the changed labyrinth. Other contestants they passed looked exhausted and lost. Some were injured, a few lay motionless, eliminated by the dangers of the maze. Should we help them? Amy asked, looking at a large insect-like being trapped under a fallen stone. No time, Creel said. We must reach the center before the day ends. But Amy was already moving toward the trapped contestant. Everyone help me lift this, she said. Her team hesitated, then joined her. Together they freed the trapped being, who clicked its mandibles in what seemed like thanks. You help enemy? It asked in broken speech. Why? We don't have to be enemies, Amy said. The labyrinth is the challenge, not each other. The insect-like being joined their group. As they continued, they helped 2 more contestants, a pair of identical twin beings with reflective skin, who could communicate with each other across distances. The enlarged team moved with new purpose. The twins could scout ahead without moving, seeing through each other's eyes. The insect being could climb walls to check for traps. In the control room, Arena Master Kroll watched in growing disbelief. The human child now has 8 companions. This violates the spirit of the competition. But not the rules, his assistant reminded him. And viewer numbers are breaking all records. The Emperor himself is watching. Kroll's golden skin darkened with emotion. Release the Devourer, he ordered. His staff looked shocked. The Devourer is reserved for the final elimination event. It has never been used in the labyrinth. Do it, Kroll insisted. The human child has made a mockery of our traditions long. Enough. Deep in the labyrinth, Amy's team heard a distant roar that echoed through the corridors. All her alien companions grew still with fear. What is it? Amy asked. The Devourer, Newell whispered, tendrils trembling. A creature bred to kill in the arenas. It should not be here. Drav pulsed with alarm. We must separate. It hunts groups. No, Amy said firmly. We stay together. We're stronger that way. They moved faster now, racing toward the center. The roars grew closer. They could feel heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Finally, they turned a corner and saw it. A circular open area with a glowing pillar in the middle. The center of the labyrinth. We made it, Zin cried. But between them and the center stood a massive creature. It was twice as tall as a human adult, with thick gray skin, multiple rows of teeth, and 4 powerful arms ending in sharp claws. Red, eyes fixed on them with hunger. The Devourer, Creel whispered. We cannot fight it. The creature roared and charged toward them. The team scattered, but Amy stood still. She had noticed something about the Devourer, a small device attached to its neck, flashing with the same pattern as their tracking implants. It's being controlled, she shouted to the others. The same way they track us. As the Devourer reached her, Amy did something that shocked everyone watching throughout the Empire. She smiled at the creature. A warm, friendly smile without fear. The devourer paused, confused by this reaction. Amy slowly raised her hand toward the control device on its neck. "It's okay," she said softly. "They're making you do this. You don't have to." The creature growled but didn't attack. Amy's team watched in amazement as she carefully reached up and pressed a sequence on the control device. It was the same pattern she had learned to disable the Crusher days ago. The device sparked and fell off. The devourer shook its massive head, then looked at Amy with different eyes, curious instead of hungry. In the control room, alarms blared. "She's disabled the control unit," someone shouted. "The devourer is no longer responding to commands." Arena Master Kroll stood speechless as Amy and her team, now including the docile devourer, walked calmly to the center of the labyrinth. When they touched the glowing pillar, lights flashed throughout the arena. A voice announced, "Labyrinth challenge complete. New record time established." Billions of viewers across the Empire watched as the human child led her unlikely team to victory. The betting systems crashed completely under the weight of payouts due. Arena Master Kroll was summoned to the Imperial viewing box, where Emperor Vrax IX himself waited. The Emperor, a massive Vraxian with gold and blue skin, looked down at Kroll with 6 cold eyes. "The human child has provided the greatest entertainment in arena history," the Emperor said. "Yet you tried to eliminate her unfairly." "Your Majesty," Kroll protested. "She breaks all traditions. Cooperation instead of competition, befriending the devourer itself. This is not how the arenas work." "Perhaps," the Emperor replied. "The arenas should change." After the labyrinth victory, Amy was brought before the Emperor himself. Her team stood proudly beside her, even the devourer, which now followed her like a pet. "Human child," the Emperor said, "you have surprised us all. Our arenas test strength, speed, and cunning. But you have shown us something we did not think to test: compassion and cooperation." Amy looked up at the massive alien ruler. "Where I come from, we learn that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to work together." The Emperor studied her for a long moment. "I wish to understand this human perspective better. You will face one final challenge, the greatest test we have, the thought maze." As Amy was led away to prepare, Sam and the other humans waited anxiously. No one would tell them what the thought maze was, only that no contestant had ever completed it successfully, but Amy Wilson wasn't worried. As she prepared for her final challenge, she smiled her confident smile. After all, puzzles were what humans did best, especially children, who hadn't yet learned what was supposed to be impossible.